Greetings, geeks. Welcome to episode 474 of Geeks in Space. This is a special After Dark edition. We're talking Time Bandits, and I'm here today with a large number of geeks, a plethora of geeks, four geeks. Chris DeBona.
Hi, everybody.
Nate Ostendorp.
Hello.
Rob Rosemoom.
I'm part of a plethora.
A plethora. I do think we should do the Three Amigos at some point. I feel like we're a couple of years away, or we're in 1981, 82. We've been in the early 80s. We should get to the mid 80s soon.
Totally.
So folks, this is Time Bandits. I saw this a lot in high school.
I watched it, I think, at least once when I was younger.
I think I saw it. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Didn't really care for it then. And not much has changed.
My dad showed me this movie when I was probably like 7 or 8.
Oh, he didn't like you.
Well, he was a big Monty Python fan. Yeah. And like, this is kind of a Monty Python movie.
It's absolutely a Monty Python movie.
It's Python adjacent.
Yeah. And there's
all the people, you know.
There are some funny bits to it, and it reminds me a lot of watching Flying Circus, but
it reminds me a lot of Flying Circus in that each of the scenes are barely connected to the thing, except that they contain generally the same people.
Yeah.
Let's watch the movie. Our feelings will out as we watch it. And now I do want to lead with the association, the Little People of America Online's website fact. Such terms as dwarf, little person, LP, and person of short stature are all acceptable, but most people would rather be referred to by their name than by a label. So that's that. I just wanted to lead with that, as we want to show the right respect.
All the dwarves in this movie though have like names that are like whimsical, right? It's like what?
Fidget.
They set the dwarf and the little people cause back by decades. Yeah, honestly.
I actually read an interesting thing about this. When Gilliam was putting this together originally, he had the idea was that he wanted to have a child be the lead, but then he didn't want to have the child be overstatured by average-sized people, because then he felt like that would make the child seem less significant in the context of the story. So he actually wrote it and cast it this way to make the little boy seem more believable as a more like, I don't know, like you don't want to have the little kid and then him like being told no by all of the giant people above him, I suppose.
Right. So he went little people and not amputees. I'm just setting the bar for this.
Right now. Nor did he hire Gary Oldman.
Right.
I would only point out that if he had put the effort into making a better movie, then I'm sure his child star would have been just fine. I mean, sorry. Let's keep going.
You got a lot of rage issue, man. Don't hold back.
I had a hard time watching this, man.
This is a divisive GIS After Dark. I can tell already.
Oh yeah.
Are you a big fan, Nate? There's no shame in being a fan.
No, so I just remember very fondly the parts that I really liked as a kid, which were the very silly parts, like the silly monologues, the evil, and the one-liners, which are just like throwaway, but are
in a lot of ways, I felt like this reminds me in some ways of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, except that The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it works because there are awesome turns of phrases throughout those books, and then they hop you into absolutely ludicrous and silly situations. This movie also has really good turns of phrases, but like the glue binding it all together, for me anyway, didn't feel as strong.
No, it's weak for sure. The movie coherent factor is low in this movie.
The movie coherence factor.
The MCF.
The MCF.
The movie cohesive factor. I will say all the intro title cards and everything, very stylish, very cool. I mean, start to finish, T to B, this movie looks good for its time.
So I will tell you the sound comes through beautifully on the broadcast. I mean, really nice.
Good.
So whatever you're doing, keep it up.
So let's see.
Okay. So I stopped this one because I was like, this is so clearly the duct commercial from Brazil.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, you know, I thought it was great. You know,
This movie,
I enjoyed how the furniture had plastic, because it let me know that that's an international phenomenon, not just my grandmother, who would also wash plastic silverware.
Yep.
oh wow.
Well, it's worth noting that Gilliam originally wrote Brazil, and he wanted to get Brazil made, but he couldn't get anybody on board to make Brazil. And this was his consolation movie. This is the one that they thought would be more marketable, an adventure comedy with a child lead. Because Brazil, man, that's a different egg.
Totally. But this part is very Brazil.
Absolutely.
Both the ultimate convenience advertising and the game show where
you bet your life.
You bet your life. Yeah.
The game show's fantastic.
Sorry, your husband has lost.
Save it for 540, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's for sure. I love and from a writing perspective, he does a really good job. All of that stuff comes back in the end. The game show stuff recurs in the finale. The fact that the house burns down because of an appliance fire. And the significance of the commercialization of his family. I mean, he's got the parts.
Yeah.
I did enjoy. I will say the first 15-20 minutes of this movie I think are really fun. Everything about this kid reads as working for me. Everything about his family works for me.
Yep.
The initial appearance of the band of robbers works for me. I mean, all of that stuff works. It's just like, for me, when the movie... we'll get there. I'll tell you when I think the movie dies.
Okay.
We're going with...
Block of ice to beef bourguignon in 8 seconds. Lucky thing.
That was a great line.
That's
yeah.
But I want it
But I
now.
want it now.
Totally. It echoes the Simpsons line, right?
Or they echo it, I suppose.
Yep. This was very vivid to me as a kid.
Me too.
This was I watched this movie totally cold. My dad was like, "You'll like this movie," and this scene just was very different from anything I'd ever seen.
And I would say that, at least for the drinking game for me, needless atmospheric fog.
So much fog.
Absolutely a Terry Gilliam hallmark. I mentioned it at a different point, but Jabberwocky has the same thing, where there's just fog everywhere, every shot. They must have had an industrial hazer that they got cheap. And just ran it all the time because they use it a lot in this movie. The thing that kind of was also that I noted here, they carry a lot, and this is recurring through Python stuff. The Arthurian legend, they make reference to it. You got Jabberwocky, you got the Holy Grail, you got this. I mean, there's references to it throughout episodes of Python. It's interesting to me because I was thinking about this. For our generation, I don't, and not being from the UK, I don't think that we carry the Arthurian legend nearly as heavily. I actually was realizing that for us, probably the comparable thing is Star Wars. It's a mythology that we grew up with built in, and if we were to try to make a fantasy movie, we would be incapable of building it without unintentionally just grafting or just literally just stealing stuff from Star Wars.
Right. Well, I mean, it is their most popular mythology, right? It's what all of everything is built on. So
I think it still persists. I mean, The Kid Who Would Be King was actually a great movie, but that wouldn't have been made in America. That had to have been made there.
More atmospheric fog.
Atmospheric fog, volumetric lighting.
Ooh, they paid extra for that. It's hard to render that in 1981.
Right. Yeah, he has all these pictures. So the thing is, I actually really like this part too. The part where it's like, oh, you can go through your wall and poof, you're in another place. I mean, this was prime when I was a kid. You know?
Yeah.
But like at the same time, when the horse jumps over the bed, I'm like, that was actually kind of dangerous. You know, what if the horse had like just put a hoof in his forehead? You know that they were playing fast and loose with the safety of this kid.
The decor of the kitchen is pretty choice.
Oh yeah, no, I have a thing.
Yes, you did. This. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think technically one of those is a food processor.
Yeah, there's food processors, but there's also blenders. There's like 4 or 5 blenders. You know, there's like a KitchenAid style one on the bottom right.
Oh, you ready for it? You need a lot of blender if you're going to render volumetric lighting. Oh, geeks in space, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Your money or your life.
Yeah, this is my favorite of them. Yep. Well, but no, I take that back. It's when his feet are sticking out and you can't see his head. That's the best part.
But all of these little vignettes totally read as Python sketches that somebody wrote that just didn't get used.
And no question, Brazil is the apex of, you know.
But Brazil had a theme, it had a story, it had a plot, it had an arc for all the characters. I mean, Brazil was really peak Gilliam. I mean,
this was his this is his movie for kids. Brazil was for adults, and Munchausen is supposed to be from the perspective of an old person.
What's he called? His imagination trilogy.
Yeah, they're all telling the same sorts of stories, supposedly. At least that was his goal.
Whether or not he succeeds, you know. But yeah, all of those game show scenes are totally spot on funny.
All right, this.
Yeah. So this part is where, I don't know. I feel like there's a series of scenes in this movie where you think, oh, what I thought this movie was about is now totally different. Like,
sure.
To this point, you think that horse might have been imaginary, and now the dwarves come out of the closet, and you're like, oh, like it's a completely different thing.
For sure.
Yeah. And this is where the movie absolutely just turns into the most annoying thing on the planet for me. Because like the whole like running around and panicking and like just so damn loud.
That's interesting because I didn't start hating this until 9:08.
Which here we go. 9:07.
A whole minute later than you. Because like one of the things I've enjoyed most about doing these is thinking about whether or not these movies could be remade now or if they could have sequels. And this was the point where I realized the day of the slapstick dwarf is over.
Yeah.
That can't be in a movie. Now, if they can almost get away with it because they're dressed so strangely. If they were actual like Tolkien dwarves or goblins or aliens, this would be fine yet. You know what I mean? If they were dressed up as monsters, this would be acceptable. Totally. But they're not. So this is verboten. This would never be made.
The other thing about this moment, and I noticed that you had put the time down, so I didn't add it, is there's a guy, he goes in with the knife and they're like punching the kid, and they're like, there's a guy with a knife in there. I'm like, are they stabbing that little boy? I mean, this was not, this is not okay. And if they're not, I mean, they must be the worst at fighting.
Exactly. This band of dwarves are held at bay by this child.
Yeah. And they have knives and like truncheons.
But they're magical creatures. I mean,
let's
no, they're not.
They're actually the bottom tier of angels.
Right. Like they're supposed to be immortal beings.
Yeah,
that's true. I'll give you that.
You don't have to give it to me. They state it.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
The wall pushing is actually really cool.
This is awesome.
That was super cool. That was absolutely cool.
1023 here. He yells at them because they go on 1 instead of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And he says you never go on 1, which is absolutely untrue. Anytime you do anything that's going to cause pain and you say we're going to go on 3, you go 1 and then you do it.
For sure.
Yeah. So
That's pretty funny.
Whoever heard of anybody starting anything on one?
There you go. The pushing of the wall thing very much registers my like childhood memory. Like that image is burnt in. I guess maybe Nate the same way the horse busting through the wall.
Totally.
This is why I was initially positive on Time Bandits when we talked about it the other day.
Right.
And then I started watching and I remembered.
Oh.
I remembered that I hate it.
It did not work as well. So the first thing I thought when this was we talked about Superman not that long ago and like the giant face of Jor-El. And this has like it's a similar dumb vibe, except instead of done with a really shitty optical film processing effect, this just looks like Terry Gilliam animation.
Yeah.
But I do like that they're being chased by this weird head. We got a big jump here.
What's the next one? Ooh, it's a Commander Taco.
Hey, that's me. Oh, crap.
Robberies.
Fog.
Oh.
All
They're
right.
constantly throwing this kid down.
It's hard being him, man.
Child abuse movie.
This one's yours, Nate.
Yeah. Oh, so this is We Agreed No Leader.
Yeah. Now let everybody listen to me.
Of course I do. 1796, Battle of Castiglione. See? Are sure we're not in somebody's bedroom?
We might have different time codes.
Yeah, we might be off by a few seconds. Anyway,
He does say it.
Yeah.
it's the first of what are a number of throwaway one-liners. You know, you want to be the leader of this gang? No, no, we agreed, no leader. Then shut up and do as I say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was a very funny line.
Crap, atmospheric fog.
Oh, you're gonna get hammered.
It's a problem.
Hammered.
It's going to be a real problem.
Hammered.
Let's see. I really like this whole bit too.
Do here.
A robbery.
Robbery? Of course. We're international criminals. We do robberies. Shut up.
I just love that. We're international criminals. We do robberies.
We do robberies.
It's perfect. Man, hold on. There's a lot of atmospheric fog. So when I'm watching this and we're getting through this part, the first thing that I'm thinking is, okay, great. It's Napoleon. It's a time travel movie, so of course there's going to be Napoleon. And I had forgotten that Napoleon was a thing in this movie. And I mean, he does all the things, you know, they make it's one click away from Bill and Ted.
Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of just the stupid stereotype.
This I'm trying to remember the name of this actor.
He's familiar. He's been in other stuff for sure.
He's been in a million things. Let's see now.
Ian Holm.
Ian Holm.
Oh, that's right. That's
good.
wow. Like Lord of the Rings and stuff.
Yep.
Well, all the things, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Ratatouille, Lord of War. He was good in that. Man, he's good in everything. He's even good in this. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he's fine, but
role.
it's so this is so when you're talking about your moment, this was my first moment, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, Napoleon, fine, okay, we're gonna have it's that kind of movie. I remember now. Okay,
I don't mean to nitpick either, but I don't like that Napoleon says he's 5'1" when that has told that Napoleon was 5'6". So they get all the heights wrong.
So there's a later moment where I comment on this. Where are we at? We're in 1720. Okay. Yeah.
And this is a very Python part, which is the other acts in the Variety Show. Now that he shot the puppeteer, Zuzu and Benny, the Great Rumbazo, and the Three Idiots of Latvia. And
yeah, it was very Python.
Very Python. Just this is what I enjoyed as a kid was, you know, the complete silly.
the shenanigans.
Yep.
It takes a lot of time too, and it doesn't advance the story.
There's so much. Like if you made this movie today, you'd edit it down to 120. Like there's a lot of stuff that is just
wacky padding.
Yep.
But again, it goes back to what the roots of this is, right? It's a Python episode padded out, you know. It's you can see that bones in a way that I suppose by the time you get to 12 Monkeys or something, you know, you got Gilliam making, you know, like a masterpiece kind of movie.
Which was a great movie.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
My shadow.
So this they set back the cause of Little People by another 10 years.
It's rough.
I'm like I can only imagine like being a dwarf, being a little person watching this, going, son of a bitch. Like Peter Dinklage watched this and he's like, really? How many dragons am I going to have to kill to recover our reputation? You morons.
He's an interesting case too because he won't generally play stuff like this.
No, he won't. He's appropriately proud.
Yeah, he's done some good work. I love his sequence in Elf, where he goes bananas on God, who is it? The dumb guy in Elf. But he goes crazy in that movie, and it's so well done.
Yeah, so Dinklage did Death at a Funeral. That was the closest he came to letting, you know, the dwarf, the little people thing be part of the joke, you know, because he ended up being involved with the guy who died and the funeral was for. And people are like, wait, he was gay? And they're like, and he was gay with a little person? You know, it was just like, yeah. But I mean, like everything else, you know, fucking he nails it, you know. Oh, Ian Holm.
That one was yours, Chris. Cromwell was 5'10".
Oh,
yeah. So like they got the heights wrong, right? Yeah, totally. like Napoleon wasn't 5'1". Ian Holm isn't 5'1". And then he said, and he has this whole thing about Cromwell, and I'm like, Cromwell A was 5'10". He wasn't short, and also Napoleon famously was inspired by Cromwell. So I'm like, and they're not in the same time frame. I'm like, what is going on here? I thought British schools were all about dumb history of Napoleon.
You think they would have done a better job educating?
You think they would have done a better job? You know, like John Cleese would have stepped in and said, well, gentlemen, we'll have to fix this, you know. Nate, you have an untimestamped thing.
He's referring to here.
It was just that, you know.
This was my silly happiness part of the show. Every time he ends Shelley Duvall,
totally,
and he's always got some unexplained physical malady, implying that his equipment isn't working.
Something about his bits,
his
nose,
his
condition. It's very silly, but I love every minute of it. I have to be honest with you.
Like again, you know,
every second of it. There wasn't a full minute of it. So
they recur. I mean, they're the running gag.
And Duvall, ready to swoon at everything he has to say.
She's great. And, you know, she's not related to Robert Duvall.
This was the first movie that she made after The Shining. So you can probably, you can kind of see in her face that she's a broken human now after, you know, a year of working with Kubrick.
And this is before she did Olive Oil in Popeye, right? So.
Oh, that's right. She was Popeye. Oh, man, I forgot about that. That's rough.
She just had that face. It was just so Shelley Duvall, you know. It's like, you know, bug eyes and everything, you know. So
I did have a problem with the sheer volume of treasure that falls out of their cart when it tips over. It's just like it tips over, and then there's just like piles of golden goblets that just fall out onto the ground.
It's like they didn't have any care in making this movie. They just wanted to be zany and crazy.
That's an extraneous colander helmet. I'll just say it. Like he doesn't need that colander as a helmet.
That colander is an anti-dwarf colander. It's setting the dwarf people back. Like, what's the guy doing with aviator glasses on? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's certainly not as bad as their dancing, but it does send them back maybe a couple months.
Yeah. And is it a candle on top of the colander? Right, it looks like a candle.
That's rewinding from like a July to like maybe a May. The dance is like maybe a decade.
Yeah. I hate this movie.
See, I don't have a problem with any of that stuff, honestly, because I feel like all of their fashion choices, like, go to Brazil, and everybody in that movie is just like, it's weird found object stuff glued all over everything, and that's the style.
Sort of.
I feel like in a lot of ways...
Yeah, Jonathan Pryce, like Jesus, in this one, like, he was wearing a very finely tailored suit. I mean, it's like, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just to me, their style is very much Terry Gilliam doing his jam.
Yeah. Yep.
I think we're coming up on when the movie falls apart for me. Yeah, just drinking out of our goblets, taking our class picture with our cool poster. It's not like the Einstein sticking his tongue out poster, but it's pretty cool. Another monologue.
This is my favorite part when you figure out that they're about to meet Robin Hood.
Yeah.
The boss.
It was a very Monty Python Robin Hood session, though.
Yep.
And how long have you been a robber?
Yep.
Excellent. What awful people. Well, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So they take them back to their camp, which is so this is the part. Just let it play for 3 seconds. Rips his arm off, and then I'm like, arm wrestling a leper is not really fair,
And then, but it pans to the barrel of arms where, like,
that's a good joke.
Ripping people's arms off, and
it's a good joke.
That's some solid Monty Python joking.
Totally.
And here we go.
Here we are.
Here's the moment for me where I'm like, oh yeah, John Cleese is Robin Hood. Because this is a problem for me, because John Cleese is always kind of my least favorite of the Pythons.
Really?
And I'm like, okay, well, you did Napoleon and you did Robin Hood. So you've now done, like, kind of both poles of UK lore. You've got the Arthurian legend, you've got Napoleon, and you've got Robin Hood, right? These are, like, if we were to try to do this, we would have to incorporate Star Wars and Star Trek. And,
I think that's more like Paul Bunyan,
totally.
Pecos Bill, Johnny Appleseed for them.
Yeah.
But let me just say that I think, now you may have a different opinion, but I think this is my favorite Robin Hood in a movie ever. Think about it. Think about all the Robin Hoods. This may be my favorite Robin Hood.
Did you see the most recent Robin Hood with Taron Egerton? So bad.
Nope.
Me either. I mean, and also, like, everything blew up all the time.
Yeah.
It was just baffling. Yeah.
I did not watch it. I chose wisely.
Graham Chapman is probably my favorite Python.
Yeah, I like him so much. But I like Brian.
I like Palin. I like so many.
I like Brian probably more than almost anything else in Python history.
Yeah.
Also,
it's a great movie.
I love that the guy punches the poor.
Yeah, like again, completely stupid, but here,
and he's like, "Is that really necessary?" And he's like, "Oh yeah,
it's very necessary.
It's necessary.
That's how we do."
Good times. Meanwhile, poor Shelley Duvall and Michael Palin.
So this is where we meet evil, and again, the movie is like, we're in a completely different movie now. Like,
Mm-hmm. Also, I hate to say it, but it strikes me that the background is primarily atmospheric fog.
I hope you have a lot of extra scotch, man.
No, that was it. I poured a steep pour, and that was it.
Wow.
It made it 40
David
minutes
Warner. I love David Warner. I mean, he's great in kind of everything for me. Like, he was Sark in Tron, So
Yeah,
like ever
totally.
since then, I've just been like, oh my god, it's Synchronotron, and yeah, I like him a lot. Oh yeah, the rant at 4126 is incredible.
And when I have understanding of them, I shall have understanding of computers. And when I have understanding of computers, I shall be the supreme being. God isn't interested in technology.
You can pause it. You don't want to get
No, we don't want to
strike.
get the strike. But
When
yeah,
I then computers, I will be the supreme being.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's
Totally.
right.
Yep.
Computers,
That's all it takes.
that's the path right there.
he knows
And you
the
said
story.
that's a good question, Nate.
So it's actually just before this, when he starts the rant, it's in response to one of his minions. And, his minion asks, well, why do you want to XXXXX? And he's like, that's a good question. And then goes into the, because
Computers.
Because computers.
Yeah.
But again, that's a Gilliam thing, right? He's a weird hodgepodge of the technology and like the digital and the analog, like throughout his career, throughout like Brazil,
all
12 Monkeys.
All of the movies have some aspect of it. Yeah.
What was the one that he did? Zero Theorem? Is that the one he did a few years ago? If you haven't seen it, it's super weird and worth your time if you want to see something. It's all like weird bald people in the future talking about math and computers and stuff. It's really out there. Much better watch than Don Quixote. Whew.
Never thought. The only thing is this me coming up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this thing where basically, so the kid drops into this, and the first thing I thought was, you ever seen a Gladiator movie, Billy? From Airplane. I was like, yeah, good times. And here's just Sean Connery.
Yeah.
And his role was originally going to be Michael Palin. But Palin
couldn't lift the damn stick.
Palin wrote his part as a consolation part when they got Sean Connery, because when they wrote it, they're like, we're never going to get Sean Connery. And then they did, but they only got him for 14 days.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did we shoot? Oh, wait, no, we had that one. 47.
Well, you're certainly a chatty little fellow, aren't you?
I don't believe it.
Well, there's old Sean. He does a fine job for what he is. I mean, he's not wearing that weird Speedo or hopping around in a plastic bubble.
He's not all Zardozzing this thing up. This is beautiful setting.
Yeah.
Now,
No, like, I mean,
Top to
for
bottom.
what this movie is, they did a good job.
And they do a particularly good job of showing close-ups of toothless people in the audience, which is fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
You've always got that,
Yay!
There we go.
Toothless people.
Yeah.
So, ancient Greece, where Kevin meets Agamemnon, Sean Connery, is at Ait Ben Haddou near Azurite in southern Morocco. And then they say it was conveniently close to the Aloha golf course for Sean Connery. I guess he's a golf nut.
Smart.
Alone at last.
It's like an Adam Sandler movie.
Yes.
Totally.
I love the ocean.
Oh, yeah. This... I love it. I love this part so much,
I like, yeah, again, Monty Python as a running gag, running moment. You can see that as like as a character that shows up in 6 different sketches in an episode, and it works.
Yeah, it's very sweet. And then the dwarfs land on them, and they're like
Like
oh
you do.
no, they're just in the middle of about to get married, and so it's great. Okay, the part that are we coming up on that? Okay, so they came in with their wacky clothes, and now they're in beautifully tailored tuxedos. You're telling me on the Titanic they had a tailor with full tuxedo cloth and the rest just ready to go, right? I'm not so sure.
No, there was a wedding party That was planned.
Sure.
A lot of children
For
were in that
people
wedding
of
party.
short stature.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. But little people are not shaped like children. They're shaped
But
like
that's why you have
adults.
the tailor. It's the Titanic.
Clearly, there was a goldsmith, and the goldsmith cashed out all of their treasure for hard currency. They took that to the tailor.
Yep.
Well,
they got themselves
This is
some
a full evening suit, though.
to be perfectly honest, they're traveling through time, so I'm willing to believe they have a tailor.
No, I
That's
believe
where I'm
there's
at
a
with it.
tailor. I believe there's a tailor on the Titanic. Absolutely, that is absolutely reasonable. It's the excess cloth. I guess it's possible.
You don't think that they have a bolt of fabric in one of their bags of holding?
Well, they seem to have a lot of stuff. That's all I gotta say. There's a moment coming up where I marked the time, but I said to my wife that all of you would say the same thing. So
the lowest standard of living in Europe thing?
No.
Oh, you're talking about the 102?
102?
Yeah. So it's the Titanic.
Oh, okay. Shall I talk about it?
Go for it.
All right, so there wasn't enough room for Leo on the door, but there is enough room for like 5 dwarves and like a little kid, and come on.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I said. I said, you know what? This is one of those moments where I don't even have to write anything.
Nope.
And I did. But
nope, you did.
Yeah, because everyone's going to mention this.
I thought exactly the same thing.
I don't know. Robert, Nate, were you going to mention this if we did not?
I mean,
I was saving this here. So
you were saving.
Okay. So full disclosure, I played a game similar to what Rob played tonight while watching this, but every time I got annoyed, I drank. So I might have been a little over sentimental at this point, but I thought this was actually sort of a beautiful homage to the love of motherhood and to mothers. When I was a kid, one of my favorite books was a book called Grendel, which is a story of Beowulf told from Grendel's standpoint.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite parts in that book is when Beowulf strikes a mortal blow, Grendel goes back to the cave, and his mother wraps her sticky coils around him and hisses soothingly to him to try to reassure him. And it's true. No matter how awful, no matter how distasteful something is, there is most likely a mother out there willing to love it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's what this woman does.
It's the same thing as in Return of the Jedi after he gets out of the Rancor pit and kills the Rancor, and you see the slave keeper crying.
Oh, yeah. No, that's
exactly.
That still is very touching. That Rancor,
Totally.
Rancor morning scene. I was like, oh, it was just an animal.
That's right.
He wasn't bad.
Everybody loves their pet. That was just his pet.
And we're only in this world for 6 minutes, and then completely different.
But we do get a little "Who's the Boss" action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Catherine Hellman.
She was also in Brazil. You remember?
Exactly. She was great in Brazil.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
Not so much here. Not a lot for her to do. Supporting character. I guess no different.
I remember.
Than any of the random set pieces from from, like I said, I was burnt out by the time they got to Robin Hood, and then they still have to go through 5 more of these little vignettes.
It's a 2-hour movie.
It's so long. I remember looking at the clock at this point and just going, it's still going.
Yeah.
They're still screaming. They're still yelling.
There's 50 more minutes.
Now this is the thing that I remember most as a kid.
Yeah.
Because the idea of how the ship is moving was so fantastic to me as a kid. I thought, oh my God, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a hat. The ship's just a hat.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's kind of great. I'm surprised more people don't cosplay as this giant. This would be the best cosplay costume. Yeah. You just put a hat on your a ship hat and paint some stuff on your face, and boom, you're done. walk around.
And
naked.
I've got the neck for it, so that'd be a perfect choice.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll just shave the beard, but
Yeah.
I mean, again, this movie, like everything Terry Gilliam has ever done, it does not lack for imagination.
Oh no, it's
Not at all.
extremely imaginative. It's just so damn annoying.
More yelling. Let's fall on some people.
And then they inject his head with some meth or whatever, and then he collapses.
Yeah.
And they survive the collapse, falling 20 stories to the ground. Sure. As one does.
How are they in white suits?
Yeah, what happened? How did their tuxes become this evening suit thing?
It's a good effect.
Yeah, I was like, I remember at this point I was so tired of this movie. I was like, Christ, they're mimes too. This is terrible.
That ain't miming. Look at his chin, man. There's a plate of glass there.
There is a plate of glass there, and the throwaway line. Oh, this is what an invisible barrier looks like.
Yep,
it's a great line. Yeah. I don't know. But it hurts.
It's some kind of invisible barrier. Oh, so that's what an invisible barrier looks like.
Hey, that's the thing, is that this is one of those movies that's held together by 30 really clever ideas.
Yeah.
And that's what it's got. And, I mean, it just looks gorgeous. Like, so well shot.
I mean, this was what year? 83?
81.
82? I mean, it's amazing what they were able to pull off.
I mean, we're not at the big special effects set pieces quite yet, but... Because now we get to whatever this place is. And they bring back the appliances.
The most desirable object in the world, which is a modern kitchen.
Yep.
I mean, you can make beef bourguignon in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
But I want it now.
What else do you want? And then, I just think visually, like, the huge maze, everyone running on it, like, they do a good job.
In the same way as the dwarves pushing the bedroom wall into a hallway, this is the other shot, I think, from this movie that really just sticks out to me. It's just like, oh, yeah, it had that weird maze. I was waiting for it through the whole movie. It's like, I know that's coming. Our next code's a way us out.
Oh, yeah, this thing.
Yeah.
So well, some of you may know I have a horrible fear of heights, right? And you have no idea how pissed off I was. This stupid movie gave me vertigo. I had to actually fast forward through this because I was like, no way. I can't watch them do that. No way. No way. I feel sick.
I like how they don't even talk about it. This is just like, oh, this is what you do when we've got a bunch of cages and rope is, we're going to, get a length of rope and swing each other over to the different cages. That's the plan.
The thing is, there's so much of this scene I had a problem with. So first of all, they made this incredibly long set of rope, right? I mean, it's a really long piece of rope from little bits that they took off the other rope.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not how rope works. That's not how rope works at all. And then
they have a tailor. They can make rope.
Yeah, but it's clearly Sissel from the... Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that's not how rope works. And then when we get to 2746, he grabs a hold of... There, stop.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stop. But yeah, the one dwarf is holding on to the edge with, frankly, very small fingers, very kind of stubby fingers.
Careful.
And I'm being careful. And I'm like, dude, no, he's going to fall. He can't keep that grip up when there's all this jerking and craziness going on behind him. That doesn't make any sense. So they did, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if they're angels, can't they fly?
They're not that kind of angel. They're more like a Crowley kind of angel.
They're not better angels. They're just angels.
They're the worst angels. So they haven't earned their wings yet. Ugh.
The fire into a mighty rushing wind which will cover the face of the earth and wipe clean the scourge of woolly thinking.
You can turn it up slightly, Ron.
We can make beans into peas.
We can make beans
into peas. I like the silly stuff.
Yep.
I also love his henchmen who constantly wants him to kill him.
Yep.
Like,
yeah. The henchmen are just like, thank you. Thank you.
So they play a bit of music while the little people are running away from peril, and it's racist. I mean, there's just no other way. Like, I've never heard such like my wife called, and this is a joke, and I'm gonna probably regret saying it.
Do it.
My wife called the music because it wasn't a big thing, and she said, you can't say that, and I was like, well, what should I say? She's like, because it's not the biggest sin of the movie, right? And she's like, well, it's clearly a microaggression. And I'm like, oh, I can't say that. She's like, you can tell them that I said it.
All right. Okay. It wasn't Chris, it was Christine.
Yeah. And then he's got these finger bangs.
Yeah, his finger gun. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
Pew, pew. There's actually, I meant to look this up, but there's a lot of the music during this scene that actually reminds me very much of the Holy Grail. There's like a lot of this like plinky, high pitched stuff. Like, it's like the same general thing.
Well, like I swear I saw Tim the Enchanter's helmet like half a dozen times, and God, the pigs.
Yeah.
So weird.
I do like though that this guy's idea of badness is just turning his people into animals.
Into bacon.
Stop them by every means in my power.
These things were legit scary when I was a kid, man.
Totally.
Yeah,
I like the idea though that he's so non-specific, just by every means in my power. And then everybody's like, all right, cool. We're off. That's carte blanche.
I'm going to make them late for meetings.
Yep, someone starts trolling their social media accounts.
That's right. Mailing them cockroaches for criticizing eBay.
Yeah, right? No, we'll talk about that.
That's tomorrow. Remember to like and subscribe, Jake.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So, like, they got a freaking spaceship and a tank, and then they have like bowmen and knights. I was like, screw that. You know, you got it covered with the tank and the spaceship. One of these guys should have showed up with like a tank full of sharks, or something else. You know,
this whole scene does get like this scene to me. It was just like this was hard to watch because this is just like the kitchen sink. And I guess this is all power at his disposal.
And they didn't even bring Sean Connery back, you know?
All the power is silly. Like it's like ridiculous. Like
it's like Beetlejuice ridiculous.
Yeah.
Totally.
Let's summon cowboys. They never went to the Wild West, right?
Yeah.
No.
And the way he deals with the cowboys is
Yeah.
I kind of like this.
I'm just saying, you know what you couldn't spin your way out of? A tank full of sharks.
But that's only because Mark Cuban is there, and he's a large man.
Nope, you'll make a Sharknado, and that's even more dangerous.
Ooh, totally. Yeah, Tara Reid's got no mass.
We're really gone. Yeah. So the only thing I said here, 144:32, is that basically, so this is God, right?
Yep.
And so I have a theory that Thomas the Train, which was happening just at about the same time, that this is Totem Hat, and the little people are the trains. So stick with me, right? So you have this guy. He's sort of like he's a proper gentleman. He's got the lovely suit. He's He's not portly like Sir Totem Hat, but he's still, substantial. And he's sort of bossing them around and being, aristocratic about them, even though he's God and they're angels or whatever. So my theory is that this is actually a long homage to Thomas the Train. And that's why I'm going to go with.
I was 100% unsurprised that a bunch of Brits would create a movie where God was just a British dude in a suit.
In a three-piece suit, yeah.
Well, let's get to my next time code. So it's not just a suit. Let's be clear, gentlemen. So he's wearing Turnbull and Astor shirt. He's wearing a lovely tie. He's wearing a Geese and Hawks suit. You can tell by how he's wearing it. He's got the fob. Okay, so stop. Do you see there's 2 pockets on the right-hand side? The upper pocket is a ticket pocket for when you go to the theater. I mean, this guy, this is not any suit. This is his effing suit.
Well, this is, again, every detail in this movie.
I want to say it's a 5,000 to 6,000 pound, and I'm talking in 1981 pounds suit here. This is no screwing around right here. That is the most money on stage right now is that guy's outfit.
So I read that this actor rewrote all of his lines, and his
I'm glad he did.
And his response was, "God would not speak that way." So he wrote how God would talk, which is pretty fantastic.
This is the only character I was like, this is I'm enjoying him. So.
Going in for the toaster. Trevor.
Civil defense helmet.
Oh, hold on. Atmospheric fog.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And Sean Connery shows back up.
Yep.
He agreed. He shot for 14 days. He came back for like one afternoon. It was his idea to have his character show up in this sequence, and he had to meet with his accountant. And he came to the set for one day till they could get 2 shots, and they hadn't even written this scene yet. But he was just like, "You should have me in this scene." It's pretty funny.
No, that's good.
Yeah, he's a stand-up guy.
Kind of.
And I do like the line, "If you were half a man, you'd have gone in after the blender."
You're a very lucky boy.
You're a very lucky boy.
I was hoping that we'd all do our Sean Connery impressions.
I'm out.
Yep.
Put it on.
No meeting there last night.
Oh, well, what do you call this then?
This is another part that I really remember from as a kid.
Me too.
Yeah.
Mom! Dad! It's evil!
It sure is.
Yep.
Touch it!
The first thing they do is touch it.
So I have to tell you, this is where the movie turned around again for me. Because
And we're back.
At this point, I realized that the Supreme Being gave him the greatest gift of all. Because you remember they ask if Kevin can go with him, and he says no. He has to stay here and carry on the fight. So the Supreme Being took all of Kevin's worldly possession, killed his parents, so he could become free to become an agent of chaos, murdering and feeding the world as he tests the bounds of free will. Which, unfortunately, was not the sequel to this movie.
Time Bandits 2, Kevin's Revenge.
Kevin, the agent of chaos.
Now, the good news is that Time Bandits, the TV series, is in some amount of pre-production, and Taika Waititi is to direct the pilot.
I like me some Taika Waititi.
I do.
See how that goes.
Every time you see a movie now, have you seen the Ray and Charles Ames short film where they zoom out from Earth?
Oh, yeah. Powers of 10.
Yeah. Like, every time I see this shot, I'm like, oh, you just saw that movie. And, I mean, I like that music, too.
And we transition to the superfluous George Harrison track.
Ladies and gentlemen, Time
Time
Bandits.
Bandits.
I'll pause so we don't get the strike. So George Harrison was the producer on this movie, Handmade Films. He produced this along with Life of Brian and some other stuff. And he would get into fights with Gilliam apparently during the production because he wanted to have he wanted songs in this, and this was the only song that Gilliam let him put in the movie, and he wanted to have multiple songs. And if you listen to the lyrics, which we probably can't do, the whole thing is like just this stupid description of what's happening in the movie. And it's actually really funny. It's like, so dwarves are showing up and they're going to have some adventures. And it's just like really dumb. It's like almost
It's like
mocking.
freestyle jazz of.
No, you should, Jake and Elon, you should skip to hour 52:30 and listen, or probably subscribe to it in whatever your music service is, and listen to the lyrics because they're pretty funny, and it's pretty much like Phoning It In by George Harrison. Folks, that was Time Bandits.
That sure was.
Time Bandits.
God, I hated that movie.
It didn't. This is the first movie that we've watched that I liked that I felt bad about.
Here's the thing. Like, you guys all hated the movie, and yet at every single cut, you've picked out something that you thought was good.
Yeah.
Like, it is a terrible movie
Yep.
that is, like, completely composed of brilliant moments.
Yep.
Well, excuse me for being a positive person, Mr. Oakendorp.
It's very much the classic example of the sum of the parts not adding up. But really what it is there's like there's one or too many time hopping sequences in the middle with not enough gravity.
What I'll say
down,
is I had 8 notes about this movie and it's 2 hours long. So I need something that is more than a funny every 15 minutes if I'm going to sit through 2 hours. That's all.
For sure.
No, I think if you edit it down to 125, 130, there's a good movie in there. It's just, like it suffers.
Like so many movies. Like I wonder if Gilliam had too much control or if he just wasn't like skilled enough or people didn't know. I mean, like that's always the mystery with a movie like this, right? Like it's easy to look at the last Star Wars movie and see, oh yeah, there was something there. If you would have like shuffled these parts around and fixed this part, you could have had something that wasn't a train wreck. This movie has the same thing. You could shuffle some parts around, tighten it up by 20 minutes, and maybe have had something great. That's why actually I think that the premise for a TV show could really work because each of the vignettes where they travel to a different time period, it's easy to imagine in a 10 episode Netflix style TV show, each of those segments being really fun.
Yeah. Or Voyagers.
And honestly, if they get good directors and decent writers, you could have non-offensive, positive portrayals of dwarfs going through time, interacting with history. I mean, this is sci-fi catnip, right? I mean, it's great.
I mean, it's Bill and Ted, right? I mean,
it's Bill and Ted. It's Doctor Who. It's Quantum Leap. It's
Doctor Who.
Sliders.
I think part of it too is just that this is one of his first movies. You know what I mean? Yep. So you get better at those things.
Yeah,
totally.
Because for me, I think my favorite of his is Fisher King, and
that's a tough movie.
This movie compared to Fisher King.
Oh no doubt. My favorite is probably Brazil. Number 2 for me.
Did he do Fear and Loathing?
Yep.
Fear and Loathing I rewatched like maybe 6 months ago, and it doesn't hold up that well, but it's got some really great stuff. Just the same as this, right? It's got some great stuff, just doesn't hold up. So what are we going to do next week?
I don't know. I think it's your turn to choose again.
Oh, man.
Tacos?
Back to me? I'll have to think about it. I've been thinking about trying to do Short Circuit, but now I kind of feel like after this, we need to go back and find something that's like really good.
It's not terrible. 1983.
What's a classic 83? I was actually thinking I was thinking about Blade Runner, But I feel like that might actually be too classic of a movie for us to bother with.
Well, there's Dead Zone in '83.
There's Raiders.
Yeah, but everyone reviews Raiders.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, we need something that's more us, like Yentl. Well, no.
Yeah.
The Hunger. The Hunger is a 1980s movie.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Escape from New York and The Road Warrior is
More on brand for us. Let me say that for Rob.
Ooh, I think we might have lost Rob.
I think we did.
He was defeated by Mad Max.
Oh, Superman 3 is also in 1983.
Superman
Probably
3.
Hacker.
Superman
back,
3 is
baby.
garbage.
All right.
It's garbage. It is garbage.
I will say Superman 3 has
Thunder.
Superman 3 has a moment in it where who's the kid? He's in he's Ducky. He's in all those 80s movies. John Cryer. He's in, and he's got a line in that movie. He's like, "Whoa, my drumsticks, man!" Because Lex Luthor throws his drumsticks out of their convertible car, and that line is forever embedded into my brain. Like it's in the core. I can't get it out. Oh. But no, I don't want to watch Superman 3. It's
John
garbage.
Cryer in that. Oh my gosh.
Well, Jake and Elon, if you got any ideas, feel free to say something in the Discord.
Dead Zone.
I have to look up Dead Zone. I don't know if I've seen it.
Whoa, there's so many movies.
All right, folks. This has been episode 474 of Geeks in Space. I'm going to thank Rob Roseboom.
See ya.
Nate Ostendorp.
I still say I like Time Bandits, even though it's a terrible movie.
There's no shame in that, man. Chris DeBona.
For shame, Nate Ostendorf.
You made him do this. You made him do this. All right, I'm Rob Commander Taco Mulder. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a legit news episode, I'm sure.
So,